Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about AI assistant readiness, what that really looks like within Microsoft 365. So before I get into the detailed intro, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's contributed towards this. So previous viewers of our webinars, some of the questions have been used throughout this. Hopefully they slot in well, and hopefully we answer them to the depth that you deserve, and also some of our customers, old and new, as well. So just want to say a massive thank you, and to all the viewers and listeners at home. A bit of housekeeping: this session will be going out on audio and video. So you might, if you're listening at home, you might hear of some of the slides or some of the images that we have coming up on screen. We'll do our best to discuss what's on there throughout, but there will be links at the end and provided into whatever platform that you'll be listening on today. So I suppose without further ado, there's a lot of excitement around AI assistants at the moment, and rightly so, and that's what we're here to discuss. They're changing how people find information, complete tasks, and interact with the systems that they're using every day, whether that be their CRM, well, pretty much everything really, without going into a huge list. But for many organisations, I think the enthusiasm is there, isn't actually the blocker for them anymore. The bigger challenge is the confidence. So can security teams sign this off? Can IT teams govern it properly? And can leaders and C-suite be sure that sensitive data, permissions, and access controls are sorted before Copilot is switched on? That's why this conversation is important. As AI assistants introduce new capability, they also increase visibility across the data, permissions, and governance structures that already exist in an organisation. So today, I'm joined by Robin Dadswell, Principal Consultant for AI Business Solutions, and Ben Howcroft, Strategic Account Director at Cloud Direct.
Morning.
Gentlemen,
Lovely
how are
to
we?
be here. Doing well, thank you, David. It's a warm morning, as you said.
Yeah.
A warm morning.
A warm morning for a hike in up a mountain in Bath, because
I think we'll call it a mountain.
Hilly. It's a mountain.
Felt like a mountain.
Yeah, to this beautiful spot.
For sure.
But, good way to
Absolutely
start
today. But other than that, how are the journeys in? A little further afield, aren't you?
Yeah, all good for me. Traffic was amazing for once, so we actually got in a nice time.
Look at that.
All things positive for this.
That's what we like.
Dreamy stuff.
That's it.
You never get to say good traffic, do you? So
No,
Never.
that's it.
Especially not when you go past Birmingham.
this is true.
It's a certain rarity, but right, as we all know, our viewers and listeners today as well, I just want to address that too. There probably will be a few comments towards some slides and some infographics that we've going to have popping up. There will be links if you're listening to this on audio. If it's on video, hopefully it'll all be edited in the right spot, so it'll make complete sense. We've got the guys here, which we're sure are gonna do a stellar job for us. So, but without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So, what do we mean by an AI assistant? So I think it's quite good at the top of this session to maybe frame a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, right? So for some people, an AI assistant is a chatbot. For others, it might mean Copilot within M365. And increasingly, people are talking about agents and where that sits. But I suppose when customers talk to you, and Ben, potentially this one's for you, talk to you about AI assistants, what are they, I suppose, usually trying to achieve? Is it that productivity piece, efficiency, innovation, a mix of all of them, none of it?
Great
What are they
question.
looking at?
I think really for me, AI productivity is one of the first stepping stones which customers are currently moving towards as part of this wider journey. And I think it's pertinent when we talk about this really to look at the bigger picture, what is going on right now. We are seeing a evolution of the modern workplace. It is changing at a scale which perhaps we've never seen before, and it is just a part of that journey. So for me, what Microsoft did about 12, 13 months ago by releasing the concept of the frontier firm out there, it was a great way to take a step back really and look at what we're seeing and what is actually going on right now, and help explain how when we talk about AI productivity, it really is just the first stepping stone of that journey. So The concept of frontier firm, if it's worth a quick Google for anyone watching and listening, just stick that in Microsoft Frontier Firm. The Frontier Firm is born. You come up with this beautiful diagram halfway down the page. It explains the 3 phases of what we're expecting to see over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, really. And it really explains the shift in the organisation, the modern workplace, which we are starting to gear up for and get ready for and go on that journey now with all of our customers. So for me, this is a great way to explain to non-technical people, perhaps, who know that there's some AI journeys happening, but don't really know much more than that. They can't explain what that is. And this was a way to digest and explain that journey to people. So it shows how the first step really is the AI assistant. This is phase 1. And this is employees, as we have across organizations today, working with an AI assistant that helps accelerate them and boost productivity, and that's what it is. And that is a stepping stone then into phase 2. Okay, so phase 2 is a bit more sophisticated. This sees employees have some use of an AI agent to help them with their role as well. AI agents are different to assistants in the sense that they will actually execute on a task rather than help the user perform a task. That's helping the user perform the task is what the assistants excel in. An AI agent will be built and deployed to complete a part of what I yesterday did as part of my job manually myself. And that is a stepping stone then, of course, into the final phase, phase 3, where it scales up further again. And it shows us having agents conduct most of the work that, as of today or yesterday, we currently do. So we are managing a series of agents in our role and our team that execute a lot of the work patterns for us and the workflows for us across organizations, really. And that's a scary, scary journey. There's a huge amount of transformation and change going on, a huge impact on the global workforce as an impact to this. Okay, it's terrifying. However, when you break it down in stepping stones, it's a lot easier to understand and digest, and I guess also understand the journey that myself and you guys as professionals are going to be going on, right? Because we're going to have to massively change how we work, and it's digestible in these steps. So we're going to worry first about that first stepping stone, and that is getting proficient with using an AI assistant day to day. I say it's an easy one. It is a massive, humongous change. We've all grown up into our professions working in a certain way. We're going to have to rip that down and learn how to work in a completely different way. That's the gravity of what we're talking about here. But when we talk about AI assistant readiness, it really is everything an organization should be doing to get on board with that first stepping stone of that wider journey. That wider journey is happening, right? It's inevitable. Yep. We've got to be on the bus. If we're not on the bus, we're left behind. And the analogy, I've heard you talk about this, I've heard people on Microsoft use this as well. Go back in time, everyone was using the typewriter. The typewriter is a global thing. It is firmly in place for how an organization does stuff. All of a sudden, Microsoft Word turns up and those bulky computers turn up, things like that. The typewriter's gone. The organizations that are still hanging on to the typewriter are the ones who are perhaps getting slightly behind the curve now as we go into the back half of 2026 with this kind of journey. So the gravity and the size of what we're seeing at the moment with this evolution of the modern workplace is absolutely huge. The first stepping stone is what we're here to talk about today, is the AI productivity and the assistant side behind it.
Absolutely.
And spot on there, Ben. I was going to bring that up, where you're talking the difference between we store stuff in a filing cabinet to we have central location that people can access their files. It's not a bit of physical paper anymore. It's the likes of email, things like that we're never going to take off, that we're seeing take off in the form of AI, both agentic and that first stage of assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can just fire something else into there. So when we say AI assistant in the Microsoft 365 context, what do we actually mean? And is this different from just using any standalone chatbot?
So really and truly within the Microsoft sphere, we're talking Microsoft Copilot or Microsoft 365 Copilot. and Microsoft Copilot for Business. Those three are the core pieces that make up your local assistant, as it were. Don't get me wrong, you can scale past that in terms of agents using Copilot, but really and truly they are a chatbot, but they've got access to your work data through what you have access to. They're really grounded in who you are and what you do. So it's not like it's going to give answers that will be identical for me and yourself or me and Ben, where our roles are different. We get answers that are more tailored based on the information that we access, that we can access, and things that we do day to day. And as Ben alluded to, it really is about assisting you to do things as opposed to replacing you. Nothing we are going to talk about today is about replacing you as a human being. It's about enhancing the productivity that you make use of and can do in a day, to enable you just to be a bit more occasionally, and work more effectively.
I mean, I think a phrase I've heard quite a few times is that human in the loop. It's, it's not AI's here to replace you. However, the people that are learning how to use those tools, they'll probably be the ones to replace you. So it's time, basically. It's effectively, now's the time to be getting into what you're taking on. I don't know if anyone's going to expand on that.
Well, I was going to suggest, is it worth diving in and just talking about what an AI assistant isn't? Because I think sometimes expectations of what it can do completely surpass reality quite a lot. And if you just ground those a bit. So for me, I don't know if there's anything you can add to this. I always like to say, you got to understand what it is and what it isn't. It's not some magic wizard which is going to fix the world. It is an assistant tool, okay? It will accelerate a user and it will enhance their output. So you may buy yourself back 45 minutes a day because you've moved a little bit quicker on certain tasks. Every now and then you may stumble across a task where it saves you several hours in a day. It's absolutely fantastic. And the quality of your output should be enhanced. But it's never designed to be the complete whole tool. I think it's worth stressing that, really. Copilot, as one of the most common assistant tools, works really well when it takes the human 75% of the way there and the human takes it the final 25% or so. You save 75% of the effort getting it there, basically. It's not always, I think, right to think of it as something that should deliver the 100%. The human still needs to be involved, directing it and polishing the outcome.
Absolutely. And I know both myself and you, Ben, have used it to help us draft emails, documents, etc. They have to be sense checked. They have to be rewritten in places, but it gives you a scaffold. It gives you some of the information that you would otherwise be spending that hour pulling from 3 or 4 different locations. It does that for you in a fraction of the time. And then you are there to make sure that whatever it's done is right and is what you're actually trying to say.
Slight rabbit hole here, right? But here we go. Here we go. We're going deep, boys. Hold on. You mentioned using it to draft emails. Okay. Yep. Everyone would have seen that example where someone's given them some information or something, and the response comes back, "Oh, it's clearly drafted in Copilot." Okay, and that is said as a negativity. Oh, it's just Copilot generated, things like that. Do you think there's going to be a point in time, and hopefully some point soon, in my opinion, where people go, "Oh, he's using Copilot, great work," rather than, "Oh, it's Copilot"? That shift in the perception of how valuable the response is.
I think it depends on the business, if I'm honest.
The context of
where the conversation is being had, etc. As an example, internally, people don't batter an eyelid as much now because we're a bit more used to it. We're using it a lot and we are encouraged to be efficient and use it. I think some of our customers are earlier on their journey, and so they might not be as used to it. I also think, this is the bigger rabbit hole, as things are getting, as AI as a whole is getting better, is that Copilot, has that been AI generated, could be any of the AI assistants out there, is becoming harder to tell. It's learning to write better. And actually, one of the things that Copilot's starting to do really well is take the voice of things you've already written and write in your voice.
Very good.
And as we said there, lads, we are getting into a little bit of a rabbit hole, but
Are you going to pull us out the rabbit hole?
I'm going to try. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm going to
okay.
attempt. I'm just throwing down that rope,
Right,
so
okay.
we can we can climb you back out.
Yeah.
Long rope.
Yeah.
We could have gone deeper, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, equally, these are the things that are becoming really important, isn't it? This is what people are thinking about when they're starting to use these tools. Is it actually going to start replicating the things that I actually do, and the tone in which I speak and the tone in which I write, so that it becomes a very useful tool, and time has told us that yes it is, and it's important that people are getting on that journey early doors now. So I think just to contextualize, then it's fair to say that AI assistant, first stage of the journey. There's a few bits that need to go in before that, and we did want to go on to that rather than getting straight into the security and governance sort of side of things, but we are talking about AI assistants changing the risk equation as well. So AI assistants are changing how people access and use their information at work. I think we can all agree on that, which sounds really positive, but obviously that raises certain risks as we go down the line. So if users can suddenly surface information more easily, then existing issues around permissions, oversharing, data sprawl, and governance, I suppose, become a lot harder to ignore.
Yeah.
And it all gets a bit highlighted and can become a little scary. But I suppose maybe to Robin for this one, do AI assistants, are they creating a new risk, or is that, or not so much?
Honestly, no, it's not a new risk. It's a risk that's already in your environment. It's just easier to surface that information, as you alluded to. So Copilot, and I'm going to keep coming back to it as the example, Copilot can access what you can already access. There is the big scary conversation that a lot of our customers have mentioned to us. It's the one you see all over every scaremongering article, etc. The prompt of what does the CEO get paid? Ultimately, if the person already had access to the file with that information in it, they can find it out already. All Copilot is doing there is showing that information in a much easier, accessible manner.
You got any other scary examples? I'll put you on the spot there.
There are many, but it all comes down to oversharing.
Yeah.
Truth be told, if your permission model's right, if you've got the right governance behind what data an individual can access, the risk is negligible in terms of someone surfacing information they shouldn't already have access to.
Sure. I suppose when we're speaking to our customers, right, is there a bit of a fear around the risk? Are people reluctant to use an AI assistant or Copilot because they're not sure if they've got ducks in a row and the data is where it should be?
Absolutely. First thing that comes to mind is customers seem to be in a very different state of play already as a starting point on this subject. However, that said, there are a number of common denominators, if you like, from the conversations I'm having week to week at the moment. So I would say the most common denominator I see is, so far, this is a technology thing. And I would say organizations' leadership, C-suite, board, are only really now becoming cognizant that this is a subject they need to start take the charge on, not just an IT department or IT division of an organization. And I think that's a really, really important message which people need to understand. We have to scale back from the AI assistant here and think about this wider journey, where we are going the next, I use 2, 5, 10 years because who knows, man. But that's what we're encouraging customers to start thinking about here. So the most common things which I find we're discussing at the moment are, what should we be worried about? What do we need to do about it? we really want to start playing with the AI assistant, and it is quite surprising how many organizations don't yet have some kind of AI tool policy in place. You're not wrong if that's where you are, but I think it is something I really encourage organizations to start thinking about. Lifting the lid on that in a bit more detail. As a starting point, a lot of organizations are coming to us right now. I've had a few chats with you on them as well. What are the risks? And we're sort of outlining that. I'm going to use another buzzword. So I decided to play buzzword bingo for this today.
I like that.
Not a good start. I thought we were off the races. I've only got 2 out of 12.
Okay.
This is so far. But I'm going to mention shadow AI.
Oh, here we go. It's
There
on
we
the,
go.
It's on the next one on the
It was
list
my
anyway.
first one on there. Was it? Okay, there we go. Go in the right direction.
Real.
Shadow AI is a term which a lot of people are hearing for the first time when they're speaking to us. We know it's a risk. That they basically were aware of this being a problem, but didn't know it was called this. I think it's the right way to describe it. But this is something boards, C-suite, SLTs need to be worried about. It is a huge thing. Robin, the better person to provide a definition of what shadow AI is will be you. So
Yeah.
tag.
Yeah, and honestly, shadow AI is the same thing as shadow IT has always been, focused around AI. It is the use of tools and products not officially sanctioned by IT, where IT are not involved. Now, obviously, if there's a business need for it, the process should always be whoever is operationally needing that tool goes to IT, a discussion is had, the right tool is chosen and onboarded in the right way. In terms of shadow AI, I guarantee that every organization at the moment has shadow AI in their environment. There are so many AI assistant tooling out there that actually people know them. Guarantee that everybody has heard of ChatGPT, Claude, Grok as examples. Copilot, obviously, as well. Everyone's heard of them. And there will be people using them in their personal lives. People will have subscriptions to Claude, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Grok, all of them, DeepSeek, the lot, and they will be using them and they will be putting corporate information into them because they don't have access to the corporate version, the secured environment. They don't necessarily know they're not allowed to because, as you mentioned, they don't have the policy around it. And it's really difficult to say, yeah, it's definitely shadow AI without that AI usage policy that 10 years ago was always there for everything else. You have your responsible use policies, your acceptable usage policies, and all of those various paper policies that you sign as an employee. There needs to be one around AI.
I think if you have a formal corporate approach to AI assistance in place, a tool you've consciously selected for that for your organization, you've got the security in place to ensure it, once deployed, behaves itself and doesn't cause you any headaches, and a way to govern it. And then you've rolled it out to your users and you've coached them how to adopt and start using that tool properly. So it is effectively used across your workforce, effectively used across your workforce so that you can ensure you have a return on investment. You're at a point where you be confident shadow AI is managed. But without those things in place, you should be expecting your workforce to be using their personal devices to access ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So organizations today who don't yet have an environment which is secured, ready for an AI assistant to roam and operate in a way where it behaves itself and doesn't cause you headaches, that don't yet have a way to govern it so they can monitor when it and how it's being used and if any other tools apart from the ones they've sanctioned are being used. And then, of course, a tool which they've consciously elected to be in place themselves. And then a workforce that has been trained properly on how to adopt this new tool, because again we're stopping the typewriter, we're moving on to a computer. Microsoft Word for the first time, right? It's a huge change in how each professional has to work day to day and do their job. That takes a very conscious effort to break down and recoach them how to operate as a professional. So until an organization achieves all of those things, you should be assuming shadow AI is a problem you're not on top of. That's a simple fact of things. There are ways to, we mentioned the governance part, and I think that's really important here, okay, and is essential to any organization when they're standing up the pillars to be ready for what we're embarking on here. How and what tools are out there to help govern AI tools?
So, purely from a Microsoft perspective here, as long as you are E5 licensed, Microsoft 365 E5 that is, or M365 E7 licensed, you've got tools such as Defender for Cloud Apps available to see what are my devices that are what are my devices using in terms of AI services. It integrates with Defender for Endpoint, so the core security pieces that have been available for years at this point that most people should have embraced or are in the process of embracing are already on the devices, already as services they can utilize, are all there to assist. And then you've got things like Purview, where Purview can go a little bit deeper and actually what sensitive information is being shared with AI tooling. As long as it is, again, on that corporate device, that managed device where data should reside, that's where you can really start to go, I now understand how my users are using AI. And some of it comes down to an adoption problem. It might be that they're technically able to use Copilot. Everything is in, the governance is there, but actually the people change hasn't been pushed. And look, I'm a techie. I tend to approach these from a technical perspective, but AI assistants and agentic AI, the whole piece, are very much user-led changes as opposed to technical-led changes. The tech is the easy bit in a lot of ways because it's changing the hearts and minds.
Nicely done.
Excellent. No, I think we probably crossed off a little bit on what this next section's going into, but I think it's worth diving in nevertheless, because we obviously touched on obviously Copilot and Copilot in M365 and how you already have the, maybe, I mean, I've heard you speak before actually around the permissions, open data, and how it can be poorly governed. So if there is things like labels, encryptions, and restrictions already in Microsoft 365, I suppose, why does that matter compared to using an unmanaged AI tool?
The benefit of using Copilot really and truly is that it respects all of the information that you've already got within the M365 stack. It's purview aware. So if your documentation is labeled with certain labels, you can have a DLP rule there that says Copilot can't touch this. It also is aware of, I've got access to. It won't surface things you don't have access to. As we discussed earlier, there are bits that you can do around making sure that your data is shared to the right people, that it's in the right places. And on top of that, if you encrypt it through Purview with the right labels, even if it gets somewhere that it shouldn't be, that data is secure. The most important part of that conversation is no matter where you are on your AI journey, you have been able to do this and should do this, even if you're not ready to embrace AI, because it's a preparation step and it's stuff that we have been able to do within the Microsoft stack for years. And Copilot just builds on what's already available to the entire stack.
Okay, brilliant.
Is it worth diving into why Copilot's our favourite assistant? Because
I think so.
Is
Absolutely.
is it the hottest assistant tool available out there?
It depends on what you're doing with it, if I'm honest, Ben. For for work stuff, Copilot is great because it's aware of you as an identity, it's managed, it's governed, and we know that if you've got access to something, you can see it. It's within your 365 environment. Don't get me wrong, Claude, as an example, much better at code. And it can do...
Thank you. Claude's on the list. He's coming off.
Excellent.
Buzzword bingo.
Claude can do things that Copilot can't. And some people prefer how it outputs things.
Are we saying yet? Copilot can't yet?
Absolutely. And it's always a yet. Yeah. The thing that I've noticed more than anything is that OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek, Grok, all of them are moving at pace, and they all leapfrog each other. Outside of the corporate documentation piece that really and truly Copilot is where we use it.
Of course.
If you go into more of a development field, OpenAI and Anthropic are leapfrogging each other all the time. Lots of people will have heard of the Fable model recently in the news for how good it's been around security pieces within code. Well, Sol has recently been released by OpenAI. GPT 5.6, I think it's based off of. And it is, again, that step towards Fable / over Fable. But OpenAI and Anthropic in particular have been literally, one will release a model, then another model, then another. And it is that one's winning, others winning, then back and forwards. Microsoft have mostly made use of the OpenAI models, but it depends on which flavor of Copilot you're using as to which models you have access to.
I think we're going to go on to that, aren't we?
Yeah,
a little bit later
we'll park
on.
it, because all those different models is a really confusing subject, but worth people trying to get their head around. I know you're going to tee up a question for that shortly. Let's not go down that one right now.
Absolutely.
It naturally leads there so many times, doesn't
exactly.
it? Exactly. You go...
So often the conversation these days is in that direction. But I think to square that one off, really, Copilot is very good. Sometimes based on the specific task it may be able to do, it may not be the best for it, but it's highly proficient for it anyway. But it's probably the favourite because of, I'm going to use the term, how easy it is to secure and to be confident it can be governed and whatnot within an organisation. So we are talking the professional tool here rather than the one you use at home. And I think that's probably the reason why it is our favourite for this. I use the term easy to secure and govern. There are deliberate conscious tasks which organisations have to do to achieve that, but compared to other tools, I think it should fit in with what your organisation already exists much easier. You mentioned all the different licensing, the tools that help with it, policies. You may have policies. Done. And this could be another direction you were going to take us in shortly, but I feel like we're going there now. We're not talking about things which are new. You used this term earlier as well, okay? Everything we're talking about to secure an environment and achieve that readiness for this stuff, okay? Yeah. It's not new. But the significance of it has jumped significantly, right? Over the last year in particular, and is skyrocketing at the moment. Worth talking about now, or should we park that a little bit?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're going to be coming into now. Like, okay. It's pretty much the most important part of the conversation today, isn't it? Is what is that AI assistant readiness and what it really looks like. And as you alluded to, a lot of the stuff that goes into that, it isn't new. It's what effectively should be in place. But the new age of AI has sort of brought that extra level of necessity for it.
It's fuel on the fire, I guess.
Exactly that.
So a very smart man I work with came up with an analogy I love, and I've been stealing off you left, right and centre. The house analogy.
I'll go into it, Ben. I know you love it when I do.
Okay.
This explains this.
Looking forward to it.
When you
Have you heard this yet?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. What a surprise.
Yeah.
All right. So when you build a house, you look at, how do I secure that house? Well, we have the front door. You put a lock on your front door.
Everyone locks the front door.
Everyone locks the front door. If that lock can be the most expensive lock. You can have 30 locks on that front door. That's great. If you've not put a window in the hole where your window's meant to be, what's the point in the lock on the door? And that is exactly where the technical readiness element of being ready for AI comes in. Because we know that organizations think they're secure. We know that organizations have areas where they absolutely are secure. But the holistic view has to be taken around AI. It's not just, have we locked the front door? It's not the old traditional, my firewall is a perimeter. AI, Copilot specifically, but all AI touch your data. They touch areas of your environment that you may not have looked at for a year, 5 years, since you first moved to that area of the platform. You can have all the data you want in SharePoint. If you're not regularly reviewing the structure, the data access piece, is it fresh data or is it stale data? Have you got 1,000 versions of the same file, all named V1, V1.1, V1.1 final?
Have you been on my OneDrive?
Sounds. you showed me a couple of times, Ben. It's a scary place, but that is where Copilot starts to struggle, because which one's the latest? Which one is final?
I'll take you out the weeds a bit and give the non-technical version of what Robin just said.
There we go.
I'm going to take a new analogy of the house again. We always lock the front door, okay? When the front door's locked, we're happy that we're secure. The windows, everyone knows having a hole in the wall, put a window in, we're more secure. Everyone has their windows now. Going back to the point that none of this is new, there always were better locks available to put on your windows, but we didn't really need them too much. So they were there, they were available, they were not as readily used. Okay, the landscape's changed, and we now need to start thinking about securing those windows as well, in a way that perhaps 12 months ago we didn't need to secure our windows. So we are now thinking about better locks. The analogy is the better lock is perhaps implementing zero trust, is thinking about Agent 365, Defender P2, and so on and so on. Purview. Mm-hmm. So that's tying the analogy back to the technical reality of things. 12 months ago, just locking the door, yeah, probably good enough. Now, it ain't good enough. We need to think about taking things a step further, and that's why we now need to think about these elite level locks available on our window. What are the best locks we can put on the window? And it is Purview. It is perhaps your E7s. It is perhaps Defender P2, and what Robin was just talking about, and how your data is organised.
And it's also about how readiness is right for your business. Again, I know the gents here have probably heard me speak about this before, but as an example, compliant device, making sure that device is a managed device, that we know that it's good, it's got antivirus on it, it's encrypted, etc. That is a recommended guidance for most corporate environments. However,
and sorry, that's not a new thing, right?
No, not a new thing.
But
has
is that
been
a
for
more
years.
important thing today than it would have been 12 months ago?
For some organisations, absolutely. But when you take on higher education as an example, that would pretty much break how they operate, because the majority of the user base in a higher education facility are students with their own personal devices who need access to the data stored within that tenant.
So you're saying you can't issue 10,000 new laptops every wave of freshers you have that turn up?
Absolutely. It would be ridiculous, right?
The way the education sector is starting to tackle this is incredible. And I think, can we go down this rabbit hole?
Well, I was going to say there's a really good case study in there,
it
isn't
really
there?
is.
There's a really good...
And we've heard Hable. Hable's an organisation we partner with to help organisations adopt Copilot and changes like this, right? And they've been working with a few of the universities. I don't know if we can name the universities, so I won't, but there's several universities really who have taken, I think, a smart approach. They realise that unless they grab the bull by the horns and formalise an approach to AI, it's going to happen and they can't control it. So they've just gone all in. So if you're now a student at this university, you get a Copilot license when you turn up. Yeah. So you're an 18-year-old and you're already going to start learning how to use Copilot day to day.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah. If they don't do that, they know the students will be using ChatGPT or something else to write their dissertations, to do all their homework. It's going to happen. You can't fight it. It is inevitable. It's going to happen. So do something about it. Formalize it. Be in control of it as much as you can by taking control of the situation, being conscious about what the students actually use. And that is, I think, a scenario which has to be applied to every corporate space in one way, shape or form. And if you're not there yet with a policy, with an approach to this subject, I think it's a great example to follow suit of.
Yeah. And it's not just about how they adopt, as much as adoption is so key to this.
Adoption, thank you. Let's talk about adoption.
It's also about how does it look for the sector, the business that you are running. A lot of businesses will want to follow the recommended guidances. This is what's defined as best practice. As much as I hate the word, but every business has to apply the right parts of that to themselves.
Why do you hate the term best practice, Robin?
The reason I hate the term is because, and going back to higher education, compliant device is a best practice and it breaks an organisation in terms of higher education. But what I can tell you is if everything that has been deemed as a best practice were applied to any business, chances are that business isn't going to be very productive. Hence why I prefer the phrase recommended guidances, because you tailor them to
the sector, the company.
Exactly. Sector, organisation, what is the need now, what are the regulatory requirements, etc.
I think it's linking it back to those business outcomes, which we alluded to right at the top of the agenda, right? It's how are we actually making that AI assistant work for the business rather than enforcing something on someone or implementing something which isn't necessarily useful and doesn't work effectively for the business. So I think that's super important too. And actually, we could probably come on to that, Ben. So how, when you're having conversations with customers and, so often AI does come out of the technical department, how do you maybe navigate that and linking different stakeholders and link that back to those business outcomes?
This is probably the hottest question that needs answering right now, but isn't getting answered directly because people are a level into the weeds. So you're right. I think most of the conversations I end up having with customers are going in a level 2 below this subject area. What do we need to do to have an AI assistant? But they need to take a step back and think about what's going on and take this whole topic area, not just the AI assistant, but the whole AI journey itself, that whole frontier firm concept itself, really. And they need to take that back to where it belongs, which is at your C-suite, your board and SLT level. We also now help customers with what I'd call not just the technology change side of things. We do a fantastic service called the Frontier Impact Studio, which helps tackle this. And that, what I'm talking about here is the decision making that goes on outside of technology. And why is that important? So if we carry on like most organizations are at the moment, where technology is reacting to a push from the business, right? We have to get the assistant in right now because we're getting behind the curve. We have to have some kind of AI in place because our competitors will be. And we're just jumping the gun, putting in some AI. Fast forward 2 years, we're going to be in a place where your business is not fit for what you have in place. What organizations have to start doing is be much more conscious of this journey at that leadership level, at board level, at C-suite and SLT. Those are the tiers I really point out for this. They need to start thinking about group-wide organizational change, which then has AI and Copilot and assistance, if you like, factored into it. It has to be driven that way around. If it's not done consciously that way, organizations are going to stumble into the point where technology is leading it, and in a few years' time, you realize your chart and your operating model is not fit for what you have in the state of play. So the operating model has to drive the technology change. For the operating model to do that, you need to be conscious at that sort of audience within any organization that we are thinking about the potential, the risks, we're managing those, we're changing our organization and our operating models to allow these technologies to operate under the model. The model drives the technology, not the technology driving the model. If you have to do things retrospectively in 2 or 3 years' time, you've done it wrong and you're set up. And that opens the door for a concept of, another one on the list, zombie AI. I've heard Brett, our chairman, coin this. I don't know if he created this term. Is it an industry term?
I've heard it from Brett. I don't know that I've seen it anywhere else.
Maybe if we define it, then we can. Someone can leave in the comments. Maybe I don't know what the official terminology is.
Zombie AI is clawing its way through organisations. Most organisations at the moment. I know we had a fair bit on purpose because we had a series of months where we encouraged all of our staff to start creating agents and using AI to experiment, to see what it can do, to get used to it, which has been fantastic for us on our journey within Cloud Direct for what we're doing in this subject area. But you end up with a load of tools which people use just to experiment, and then they sit there, they cost the organisation money, their resources, which should be deleted and closed down if you're governing the environment properly, okay? Right. So zombie AI is when you end up with a range of AI resources and you can't account for what access they may have, the costs they may be incurring in the organisation, things like that. So if we scale back to what we just talked about, if technology is driving your operating model, you're going to have a lot of zombie AI. If your operating model is in place first and you're making the right business decisions that then drive decisions and new tools, new AI, new systems into the organization and agents in the right place, in the right roles, the right levels of access, you shouldn't have a zombie AI problem. So approach it the right way and you help manage this risk as well. But the amount of ungoverned Power Platform unowned agents that don't have someone managing, looking after them, these are the kind of problems that organizations have to be conscious of, right?
Absolutely. And you touched on something really important there, Ben. Power Platform. Everything when we're talking about...
What is Power Platform?
Okay, firstly, Power Platform is Microsoft's automation, low-code development platform, where Copilot Studio sits, where you create those agents. Power Platform has been around for a long time.
And I'm going to scale it back even more, sorry. Low code means people like me, who aren't techies and don't know how to do any development, can create tools and applications, agents, things like that, right? By just talking to the platform to create an agent to do a task.
Absolutely. And it can be even simpler than that. You can have a SharePoint site and you can say, create a form for this. It's a button within SharePoint. It will go through into Power Plat and create that app for you. And it knows about what data. It creates the connections. It does everything that a developer would have to do manually for you with very little to no code. Now, Power Plat has existed for a while.
Again, it's not new.
Not new technology.
However, the significance of it has skyrocketed.
Absolutely, because people were using Power Plat. They were doing Power Automate flows. They were creating apps. Copilot Studio sits there, and as you create agents, they're created in there. So DLP rules, etc., within Power Plat, the importance of those skyrocket, because that's where can I move data from source A to source B. As an example, can I move data from SharePoint to Twitter? I don't really want to be able to. So there needs to be a rule in Power Platform to block that, to stop both workflows and agents from being able to do it. The other interesting point that you bring up around Power Plat there, AI isn't necessarily always generative AI. It's not necessarily driven by a model. It's not necessarily driven by a chatbot front end, etc. It can be, but that's where Frontier Impact Studio starts to dig Are we talking an AI use case, or are we talking some automation through something like Power Automate? There is a difference, but as AI adoption has increased, so has workflow creation. And workflow, can we workflow it? Should it be automated or should it be Gen AI? Is a really good question at the moment. And it's a question that we are finding more and more from the technical side that we're talking about with our customers. Do they need Copilot for what they're trying to do? Or are they talking about an automation workflow?
Sure.
And I'd say it's probably 50-50 at the moment. People are realizing the tool can do more than they ever realized before.
Yeah. I think there probably is a little bit more crossover than there has been before. I mean, I was just about to rein us back in a little bit because I was like, we're on the AI assistant stuff and we're drifting in, but I think it's super important that there are blurred lines, within this and how things are moving on, and how people are taking this first stepping stone is ultimately going to impact what they do when it does come more agentic, when those workflows and automation things do come into play, and of course that governance piece and security that we've talked to before. So I will move us along now, which will be moving around what about other models? Okay. And this one might be for Robin to sort of sharply summarise, because I think this can turn into a bit of a minefield. There are other models. There's other tools. Obviously, there's co-work as well. So I think we actually had a question come out from one of the customers or someone that was along to one of our past webinars. So once an organisation understands readiness, the next question usually leads into which AI tool should we actually use? And I guess this is probably where things need to be navigated quite succinctly. But people have heard about Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. You've listed off a fair few before.
Yeah.
They're not all the same thing. And I suppose the use case for the business is most of the time different. So I suppose, can you simplify the difference between a model and maybe an application? And then, for example, where do OpenAI, Anthropic, Copilot, Co-work, and I don't know if I want to drop in Harvey as well.
Thank you. I'm glad you did drop in Harvey. There we go.
There's been loads in the news about Harvey recently, obviously with what they're doing with Microsoft, and I think they won I can't remember, 6 months ago, won the first law case, all the rest of it. So how do all of those things intertwine? How can people benefit from them all? And do you want to just give a bit of an overview before I make it even more confusing?
I'm going to keep this super high level. Models are like the brain for an AI. They're what's been trained. You take data, the data gets trained through a LLM. It's fancy machine learning.
Cool. So we say models. What is that like? If we had to brand those, what are they? So
models are created by the likes of Anthropic, OpenAI, X, and other companies such as Google. They are what's updated regularly. You've got, as an example, Opus is a recent model on the Anthropic side. You've got Sol, as I said, on the OpenAI side, and Microsoft have recently released their MA1 model as well, their first party model. They are then used by applications. Okay. So think Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Grok, etc. They all utilize various models. One of the key things to know is that most of them you can change what model you're using. Different models excel at different things. Some of them are deeper thinking levels. Some of them are more high level surface level information. Some are better for code. As I alluded to, the Anthropic models are amazing for code. And actually, a lot of the OpenAI models are fairly good at code as well. But it all boils down to the right model for the right job. It's where Copilot comes in. Copilot mostly uses the OpenAI models. However, through co-work, through token billing, you can get access to the Anthropic models if you are a frontier firm and you configure it to do so. Also does add elements of risk in that as it stands, and it is an ever-changing landscape, as it stands, if you use the Anthropic models through Copilot co-work, data is currently not guaranteed to be inside of the EU, UK boundaries.
So who needs to be conscious of that? So
That
some organisations that's really important for, right?
absolutely, most UK and EU companies want their data to stay within the UK and EU for GDPR purposes. There are exceptions to that, obviously. However, compliance and security people need to be aware as part of enabling it that is a thing. As I said, that's the landscape today as of recording. That does not mean that it will be the same in 6 months.
All of this changes so quickly.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had questions from a customer last week, I think it was, that was talking about how they can, through Copilot, because they know that's the safer way and the easiest way to secure what they're using, how they can access Claude models to help with things like Dora. I've teed up. That's bingo for me, guys. I'm done. Dora was the last one. And use it for things like Dora compliance,
right.
Which was a great question from my buddy Michael. And the answer was kind of great, but also it could change soon because things are shifting. We know Microsoft are building their own models. Should we assume that at some point in the future, Copilot won't leverage Anthropic's model and Claude's model and the Claude, or should we assume that they will still feature, do you think?
I think there will be a feature between OpenAI, Anthropic, and Microsoft first-party models. The latest Microsoft, well, the first Microsoft model being released is security-focused for security backend, not necessarily end user. But they are obviously developing other models as well. I think Microsoft are placing themselves as this is where you can use AI most effectively. I'm going to allude to it again. Everything changes. Mm-hmm. Everything we have discussed today, everything we will discuss. Yeah. Absolutely. Everything we discuss today, everything we will discuss over the next 6, 12, 18 months will be different to what we've discussed today, to what we will discuss in 2-3 years' time, because of the rate of change in the space. Yeah. It is almost unprecedented how fast technology is changing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm slightly conscious of time, guys, so I'm going to move us on from that one.
Sorry, before we move on, can I do a quick bit? Just
yeah, absolutely.
Help sort of go over the top of what Robin just explained. So just heading back really to tie in again the non-technical version of what Robin's talking about. The easiest way for me to picture the market at the moment is by layering them. So you have different vendors at the top. Some of the vendors then own a model. The model's the brain of the AI, and then under that you've got the application which us as users consume. And some applications, Copilot as an example, could use multiple models to produce its output for you today, which is brilliant. But again, how future-proof that statement is, Microsoft are developing their own models, so we don't know if it is going to tap into Claude and ChatGPT in the future. But to try and picture it, OpenAI as an example, they're the vendor, their model is Sol, ChatGPT is the application everyone's familiar with that sits under it. So that's what we're talking about at the moment, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, spot on.
So I suppose just in summary then, we're talking about Copilot so message isn't Copilot removes every risk, but Copilot gives organizations a governed route to adopt AI, providing foundations, moving through. Okay, perfect. Well, guys, one of the things we have had coming up a fair amount too from, again, customers old and new is, okay, we're at this stage, maybe we've got our data governed, we're secure, we want to roll it out. What's a safe way of doing that? Is there a specific user group maybe within the business to do it? Is there multiple ways of rolling this out? Do you do a mass rollout? what are the different options that people have?
It depends on organisational size, is what I would say, and also appetite for changing that op model, as Ben spoke about earlier. So we have businesses that roll it out to back-end staff, so the individuals in accounting, marketing,
Internal IT,
etc., as their first point of call. Then you have other businesses that go, actually, I can really see an ROI in my call centre, as an example, by using it.
And you've got to talk with the legal sector, where there's such a powerful use case for their billers to be equipped, because they can do more output in such a valuable role. Of course, it's fantastic news for the bottom line. And the legal sector has taken that and run with it, right? So
Absolutely. And that's one that I would suggest, and we'll include a link to it in the description, that everyone just goes and has a look at what Harvey has done. There's been some big bits in the news about it. Microsoft are talking with it at the moment, but I would highly recommend, as a sector that doesn't necessarily move forward with the times as well as a lot of others, seeing what they're doing with AI 100% will give people ideas.
absolutely a sector on the front foot right now, yeah?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really interesting.
Weirdly so as well for that sector.
Absolutely. Well, again, with its regulated and governed nature, they're usually fairly shy of adopting these new things. But
Absolutely.
I think
They take time.
such as the productivity of it and the proof in the pudding, I suppose. Yeah, why not? Hey. Okay, moving on to our final section, actually, guys. It's been so good so far. So we're moving into, moving from readiness. Obviously, that's what the key topic of this whole discussion has been about. But how can people take that into a secure adoption? So final section here is about how organisations move from readiness to secure adoption. It feels like the practical pathway, as we've just mentioned, and there's some industries which have adopted that faster than others, which is fantastic. How do customers go from that interest and caution to controlled rollout that security teams can support?
Want me to start?
Yeah.
I actually think it looks a bit different for some organizations. Again, it's where you're on the journey and your appetite. Some organizations do need to move in. I was using it in baby steps. That makes it sound not as committal and conscious, but they may need more stepping stones in place. And other organizations may already be in a position where the appetite exists to go to the assistant and more at the same time, perhaps a wider data platform, perhaps a greater scale of agentic adoption as well, straight into Copilot Studio stuff. So it really depends on the organization. Some may want to take a big stride. Others may want, let's just think about Copilot and roll that out. But for me, the term adoption is critical. We've talked today about the importance of the C-suite, the leadership, making decisions around an operating model that then drives the technology. Fine. We've talked about securing the environment first and then thinking about bringing the tool in, a tool you've elected and chosen consciously. Great. But then you have to adopt it properly. Just introducing the tool isn't going to do the trick. It does take a conscious investment to work with people to break down how they've done their job, their entire career, and start working in a different way, utilizing an AI assistant day to day. It is a hard change because we are ingrained. People do not like change, even though they're excited by this one, right? Everyone wants the shiny new tool that is Copilot. Yep. Great. But people don't change very well and very naturally, do they? It's a fact of things. When Teams first came around, the amount of work we had to do to teach and coach people how to start using Teams proficiently and how to respect calendars and organize meetings and what to do on those kind of calls, right? This was the whole thing. There was a huge adoption drive when we started using Teams. It is bread and butter now for every organization, okay? Just 6-7 years later. So we're talking about using an AI assistant our bread and butter as well. If you're not focusing on changing your users and truly adopting that, we have to remember the magnitude of change that Teams was on us as a workforce was tiny compared to what we're now seeing. It is a much, much bigger impact on us as individuals and employees. So I think truly adopting it and investing, because it is an investment, we've got to acknowledge that, in people who can work with your users over a period of time and help truly ingrain that into how a workforce uses AI. The importance of this for me isn't just about a return on investment for Copilot or whatever assistant you're using. That is important, and it will pay for itself. Whatever you invest in the training, you'll get back by your team's increased output, okay? If it goes well. But you have to remember the big picture, where we're going here, okay? The next phases. This is the first stepping stone, phase 1, using AI assistant. But where we're going sees us working with agents day to day. And then eventually, phase 3 of what we talked about right at the start of the session, we're controlling agents all around us, okay? Me personally, as a professional, I'm not going to retire next few years, sadly, unless I win the lottery, fingers crossed. I'm going to need to change how I work so that I can work with AI day to day. If I don't, I'm not going to be hireable in the foreseeable future. So for me, becoming proficient with the AI assistant is critical in ensuring that I can be a professional who's hireable in 10 years' time. I don't know how far away it is. So it is so important to get right. It is an investment, and it's one you have to make consciously at that leadership level. You can't just give them a tool, give them an hour on how to use it, okay, and off to the races, pat in the bum. It is about assigning profiles to teams who will use it differently, understanding what profiles exist in your organization. It is then about monitoring how well they are then using it over a period of time, working with the ones who are dropping off and not using it as proficiently as they could and should be, reassigning licenses to people who may need it more to make sure you are taking the workforce on the journey and getting a return on investment. That's what true adoption looks like. And it is a conscious, expensive, and really important thing.
Yeah, and it's all about those foundations. And you touched on the people foundation there, but the one big piece we haven't spoken about at all today, making sure things like you are using SharePoint and OneDrive, that your data isn't stuck on a legacy on-prem file server, that it is somewhere that Copilot can access. Unstructured data, that is. Structured data is a complete other beast to work around, but the more data Copilot can access, the more it can do for you.
And if your data's old, in the wrong place,
Yeah,
return on investment's limited, yeah?
absolutely.
You lead us on perfectly, because what I wanted to, I suppose, and for the listeners and viewers at home is understand that if they're at this stage now, what is it that they can do? And I guess that leads on to a readiness assessment. So what would be involved in that, and what would it be that, what would you be looking at during that?
So within a readiness assessment, we look at everything from, have you got your written policies around AI, usage, tooling, etc., through to what technical controls on the Microsoft 365 side have you got in play? So are you understanding what shadow AI you've got? Are you understanding where oversharing may be? Have you got your technical piece ready? Is your data in 365, or have, as I said, you got that legacy file share? It's a holistic security review as much as anything across the estate, understanding where your current risk would be. Obviously, out of the back of that, a number of different bits of work may happen, but that is much more tailored to the organization. Things like you might need Purview, a whole Purview deployment. You might need a file share migration, or you just might need a few bits here, there to improve bits of security. Look at that oversharing in more depth and how do we restrict that more? It's all about the right next steps off the back of that readiness assessment, and not just this is how you do it.
I think today we've got a session, we're talking about AI assistance, but we're conscious of the wider AI journey too. Okay, again, the AI assistant for me is a stepping stone in that journey, but to do it properly, you're doing things which are cementing that entire AI journey for your organization. And I always draw on 4 pillars which you're thinking about to be ready for it, properly ready for it, because the risks and the windows you leave unlocked if you don't do it properly are terrifying. So for me, you have pillar 1, a secured environment, and it's one which is secured and has the right processes, policies, tools in place before this comes into the equation. You then have a way to govern it, because if you turn it on without being able to govern it, you've left the windows open again. The third thing for me is you're working with your users to adopt it. Therefore, they are fully on board with the technology change and what's there, and you are getting a return on investment, and you'll be confident that you're doing all you can to ensure your workforce is ready for the entire journey, not just this first stepping stone of the AI assistant. And fourth, and finally, the fourth pillar for me is the leadership level driving the operating model changes to adopt these things in. If they're not steering the ship, technology is steering the ship instead. That's the wrong way around. So that leadership level, your board, your C-suite, the SLT I keep referencing back to, have to be conscious of how they are shifting the organization, changing departments, evolving roles, reallocating human time into other things as AI is introduced slowly to relieve time and put effort where it needs to be across the organization. These are really difficult decisions to make, decisions a lot of leadership teams perhaps haven't had to make before, and are critical for success here. Yeah. So those are the 4 pillars for me which undermine readiness for what we're seeing at the moment with this whole AI revolution.
I think the bit that really sort of resonates with me and something I've seen a few times is scalable governance. So it is that, okay, great, we get some things in place now, but how can we make that scalable so that when you are going through that agentic journey and whatever might come, ahead of that, it's all there, it's in place, and we're doing things in the right way. I suppose there's a bit of
before you do move on though, David,
hold the phone.
It's remembering that everything we do today isn't a one and done.
Yeah,
readiness is ongoing.
Yes,
we can't forget
it's not a static outcome.
No, yeah. And it never will be. Again, rate of change. We have to remember that tomorrow brings new announcements from Microsoft. It brings new announcements from the other vendors and potential integration points, new security risks. There is a new breach every day. And that's actually one of the places that AI has accelerated, if anything, is that there are more and more breaches, more and more security vulnerabilities found. So you've got to be keeping up to date with your readiness from a technical and operational perspective. And that's where govern should come in. But it's more than just the day-to-day govern. It's making sure your ship is right, making sure you are reacting and being proactive as announcements happen.
That's an ongoing function which has to be part of an operating model, yeah?
Absolutely. It becomes business as usual for ultimately tech teams from a security perspective, but also the how are we integrating this in our business from an operating model perspective.
Ben, so is there anything else that you'd add on to how the Copilot readiness assessment is helping organisations at the moment?
There absolutely is, yes. So we talked about how the Copilot readiness assessment is going to help organisations achieve some of the pillars needed to be ready for Copilot as an assistant, AI assistants, and the wider AI journey. Okay, so we are thinking and talking big picture here. For me, it does help in particular with the first couple of pillars I talked about. So it's securing your environment and the governance part. So effectively, this as a service provides you with a map to tell you exactly what you need to do to be confident you have those pillars stood up for Copilot and an assistant to come in. But we'll take it back to what we talked about. Different companies in different places and have different appetites. Some may need and want just that first stepping stone, stop there for a while. will go in 6 months' time, 12 months' time on the next stepping stone. Others maybe taking a bigger stride right now. So they may be thinking about that bigger picture and already thinking about agentic use and data platforms. For me, I would step back there from the Copilot readiness assessment and think about another assessment we do, which is the data and AI assessment. This is one which we'll have a lot of conversations about at the moment. It is effectively a tool for organization which has some people on the bus, but doesn't have other decision makers, other members of the board, perhaps yet understanding what the journey is, why we need to do the journey, and what the journey looks like. So that as a service comes on board and works with people across the organization to understand what data and what AI currently does for them and could do for them. It points out where you're being held back because of how you're doing things today, and it provides real data from within an organization to prove why you should do something different, which is usually about building a holistic platform, having a data ingestion or a data lake in place, and really setting yourself up for the next generation of the modern workplace, which we're going to see. It is effectively teeing you up to have the perfect business case to take to people across the board to say, this is what we've got to do, and this is why. So it helps bring everyone onto that journey, sort of a mini strategy on where you should go next. And that is an incredibly powerful thing. Some organizations may be in a place where that's where the sense of direction is. Others just think about the AI assistant now, and that's the Copilot assessment. The key thing for me is these are just discovery phases, okay? So they're just going to point out to you exactly what you need to do to get ready. Next step is execute those, implement your governance level, and go from there. And of course, if you want to scale it up even further, we're talking here about all four pillars at the same time. We talked briefly earlier about Frontier Impact Studio, another service we have. This is what we do on the more consulting side rather than the technology change side. So the Frontier Impact Studio will work with an organization to help them make all those decisions. So this is what I mean by the leadership team steering the ship and controlling the operating model to dictate technology change that way around, which is the correct way around to tackle this now. Frontier Impact Studio helps organizations understand how they are structured today, how things could be utilized. It provides a roadmap and it provides recommendations from what changes you could think about today under your current operating model, how difficult a shift it would be to tweak the operating model ready for AI to come on board, and then suggests that changes which follow once you're in that new look. So it helps an organization decide effectively, and it's a heck of a lot of decision making that's needed. It all has to be conscious. That's the thing. Don't just ghost into it. You have to consciously go on this journey, and that's where I think Fizz is what we call it. Fizz Frontier Impact Studio is such a powerful offering there. But we've got scale here, right?
Yep.
So again, if we're just thinking about the AI assistant Copilot assessment right there for you, tees you off, gets you on the path you started, you're off to the races. After you've followed up and followed through on everything from that assessment, you're good to go and you're safe and secure and you're governed for your AI assistant. Take it up a level, you could be thinking about the wider data platform around it and agentic use, or you can scale it right up to Frontier Impact Studio and think about that whole org-wide change in direction and trajectory here. When we're looking at just the Copilot readiness assessment as well, it does identify what journey you should be thinking about to achieve that readiness state. And it is different for organizations. Some, there's a whole raft of ways and services we have teed up ready and have been working with customers on. And some customers may need one or two, some customers need 5 or 6 of those offerings to get there. So it really does depend on your state of play. But for me, starting with that assessment really identifies where you are today and where you've got to go tomorrow to achieve that readiness, and what menu of services you should be reading off.
Well, thank you very much, gents. I think that's been a very insightful session today. Obviously going through some of the key engagements at the end, but ultimately just a discussion as a whole and being able to have the opportunity to answer a lot of the questions that we've had coming in from our customers and previous viewers. So, no, thanks so much for your time and going through all of that.
Been an absolute pleasure. We absolutely love wanging on about this subject. These are cool times, interesting times, challenging times, but could talk about this all day.
They are
Love
indeed.
it. So
Thank you for having us, David.
No, very welcome. And hopefully we'll be doing a few more of these as things progress. And as we say, it's an evolving, ever changing landscape. But to the viewers and listeners at home, there's going to be plenty of links going out about the engagements that Ben's just talked about, and some of the slides that were alluded to as well will all be attached. So fear not, it'll all be there. But I suppose in the meantime, of course, if any of these topics coming up in your business, absolutely reach out to us. If there's any sort of advice from a educational point of view or from a more involved engagement, we're here to help where we can.